There you go. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right. All right. So moving forward, this in particular week's Torah portion is called Wayetze. Okay. And Wayetze, this means and, Ye means he, and then say means went out. Okay. That's what he did. And he went out. And so the story begins to tell us that Yaakov, he went out of his land. And once he went out of his land, he went to go seek refuge in another land and with another family. He's by himself. He had earlier this week, we talked about his experience that he had with the Creator, in which he had a dream. And in that dream, he saw a ladder that was, on the earth, and it went all the way up into the Shamayim. And he saw Malakim, which are messengers of the Creator, going up and down on the ladder, meaning Olim, which is to ascend, and that to descend was Yoredim, to go down. So he saw this constant traffic between the Malakims of the Hashamayim onto the earth, which we discussed that it had to do with this relationship in which the Creator is constantly involved in the affairs of that which is going on the earth. Also, too, we understand that a Malakim is one who brings a message, and they deliver the Creator's message to men. But at this in particular time, the dream that he had, the Creator spoke to him, and he made a covenant with him. And he told him that he was going to make his descendants as numerous as the dust on the earth, and that the whole entire world would be blessed. And so on Yom Kamishi, we discussed who we are as a people and what is the purpose of the covenant, which was fascinating because never before have I ever seen that in all my 10 years of reading the Torah. So it tells me that Yah sometimes doesn't reveal everything to us at the beginning, but eventually over time, he'll start giving us a little bit more information. So we understand we're beginning to understand our purpose as existing as a people. He also showed us the difference between Yaakov and Yisrael. Gave us a little forecast. Yaakov meaning the man who's strong. He might be physically strong, as you saw in our Torah portion this week, that he was able to move a stone that it usually took a whole bunch of people to move off of the well in order to water the sheep. But also, too, we saw the idea of Israel being a person who turns the head of the people, and that they are the ones who are going to be spiritually stronger and mentally stronger. That's what it means to be spiritual, is to be mental. And we cannot separate the two. Your spirit is your thought and your intellect. Okay. So Yaakov, you will hear him mentioned, but you'll also hear Yisrael mentioned. So we'll always keep that in mind when we're talking about that. But today we're discussing Yaakov and we're talking about his life. Okay. But I wanted to bring out a point in our Torah portion. If we didn't finish, I want to continue where we left off at, which is in the verse where he talked about how he made a vow. And so I want to preface the conversation with us understanding that whatever you and I say to the Creator, okay, if you and I make a promise to him, we are to keep it. We're not to delay in doing it and paying it off, okay? It says, for if you make a vow to Elohim, don't delay in discharging it. Okay. For Elohim takes no pleasure in fools. So discharge your vow. Okay. Better not to make a vow than to make a vow and not discharge it. Don't let your words make you guilty, and don't tell the temple official that you made the vow by mistake. Why give Elohim reason to be angry at what you say and destroy what you've accomplished? The one word that stuck out to me is not just the vow, but this idea of discharging it. I need you to discharge. So I looked that up in the Hebrew, and discharge is this idea of making a payment. Okay. Whatever you say you're going to do, you must do, because you're not just talking to a man. You're talking to the absolute, unequivocal, holy, set apart, kadosh one of the entire planet. Okay. So we have to be careful about the words that you and I speak. The word for discharge in the Hebrew is called shalem. It has the same, and it's spelled Shalem. Okay. That's the verb of it. But shalom is the noun of it. So words operate as nouns, and then they also operate as verb. You might have something that means something, and then how it functions. So shalom is actual name of payment. Okay. To make the payment is a shalem. But also too, you know that it has the same root word as shalom. Okay. And what is shalom? Someone tell me.
Peace.
It's peace. Okay.
To be made whole.
To be made whole. Who said that?
Me, Rivka.
Oh,
Rivka.
To be made whole. Okay. That's an excellent concept that she just mentioned, right? So we have peace, but it's to be made whole, to be made complete. Okay. So if I'm sorry for writing on an angle, forgive me. So if we're talking about shalom, right, and having peace, the only way that one can have peace is one is whole. They've been made whole. Okay. Payment's been made. Okay. So you won't be a complete shalom until there is what you would call shalem. That's why they share the same root, is because you can't have any peace without payment. You understand? There won't be any peace in any agreement unless there is payment. Okay. And so the idea behind shalem or shalom is the goal is to go from shalom to shalem. You won't have any peace with Yah if you said something and you didn't keep your word. Period. I'm a stickler on this. As a father, I am a stickler on something. If you told me something and you didn't keep your word, it reminds me of us saying, well, Yah has asked us. And especially if you made a vow before the Most High. A vow is a promise to do whatever you said you're going to do. So we're going to talk about that, okay? And we're going to get a better understanding, another aspect of this vow and this promise, okay? So that's what it is. In order for there to be peace and shalom, there must be shalem. There has to be a payment made. And that's another reason why you and I are in our exile, okay? Because he said, I'm going to send you to the land of your exile or your enemies, and then you're going to be there. And why the land is being paid, she's being paid for her Shabbats. See, because you didn't give her any Shabbats. You didn't honor it. You didn't keep your word. You said you would do it and then you didn't. Okay. So the vow is the promise. And so in our portion, Yaakov, he took a vow. Okay. And it tells us about this vow. He said, and this is after his dream that he had. He said, if Elohim will be with me and will guard me on this road that I'm traveling, giving me bread to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return to my father's house in peace. See that? You see that peace, that shalom? Then Yahweh will be my Elohim. That's if. Okay? If he's with me, if he's, he provides for me food and he provides for me clothing, right? And he also brings and he returns me back to my father's house in shalom. It's not just, I want to go back home. I want to go back in peace. Okay. And the only way that he was going to be able to achieve this shalom is through what? From what we just learned. How can you get shalom?
Shalem.
Shalem. You need to be paid. Our people are out here acting as if they don't have a payment to make. They're acting as if the only payment that they need to make is acknowledge that they're the children of Israel. That is a falsehood, people. We have to be paid. And the Creator has to be paid. We say anything to him and we don't follow about what we say, we will be destroyed. So if you ask yourself the question, why isn't there no peace in my home? You got to look at, maybe I said something and I didn't follow through with it. You see? So he wanted peace. So he wanted shalom. And that can only happen through payment, as you're going to find out through the Torah, the portion that Lavan, as Akoti Pamela brought out, that he changed his wages 10 times. 10 times. He had nothing but problem after problem after problem with this man, because the man was saying something and then changing it. The relationship began with this idea of me making a promise to you, and we make an agreement, and then you pull a fast one on me. You don't live up to the words that you've spoken before the Most High. Now, more specifically, we're talking about what our vows are to Yahweh in this context here. But even though you make a vow before Yahweh between another human being, you're still responsible. You're using his breath to speak words that you will not follow through with. That is a crime. And I'm not trying to indict anyone today, but I must tell you that we have been people that have been misled and misdirected in our understanding about what we say and how powerful these words are. At this time, when he said this, he took a stone that he had laid his head upon, and he set it up as a standing stone. And he said, this stone that I'm setting will be Elohim's house. He is the one that Yah had him to establish by making a vow that I would make this in particular stone Yahweh's house. And of everything you give me, I will faithfully return 1/10 to you. So he says, surely this must be Yahweh's house, this place. Somebody tell me, what's the name of the place, if you can remember? Bethel. And what does Beit mean?
House.
House.
El.
And of El, the house of power. He recognized this. He said, and it was a great fear over him when he realized that, whoa, Yahweh's house is here and I didn't even know it. So in our study, we should understand there's a lot of things that you and I don't even know. We don't know where these Malachim are walking. We don't understand the engagement that they're having. We have a very limited view of what Yahweh's intentions are in his plan. But Yah reveals to him who he is, and he introduces himself to him. And guess what? Yaakov made this vow. He made this vow. Yah caused him to have the dream. You see? Yah causes things, and then after he causes something, he's looking for a certain response. And the response for him was, I'm going to make this house, okay? And also to everything you give me. He's talking to Yah. I will faithfully return 1/10. I'm going to give you 1/10. I'm going to give it to you. So our previous experience as former idolaters, which are Christians and Muslims and Buddhists and atheists and all these different other areas, idolatry, self-will, stubborn, and egotistical. Rivka, go ahead.
If we didn't have a temple at that time, where did he give his tenth and how did he give it?
That's a great question. The question is, Elohim, he said, whatever you give me, I'm going to give 1/10 to you. And he didn't wait till there was a house of Elohim. He did not wait. Okay. He did not wait to do that which is good. He said, I will set up a standing stone, will be Elohim's house. And of everything you give me, I will faithfully return 1/10 to you. He gave him a percentage, a small percentage of everything that Yahweh had already given to him, which brings us to this idea of tithes. And the question will be answered, Rivka, through our teaching. I don't want to skip, it's coming. So thank you for the question. And to return to the idea of what I'm saying about us being idolatrous, you and I at one point was this self-willed people, this self-worship, okay? And that's what we've been dealing with, but we're no longer doing that, okay? The 1/10 concept has to do with the tithe. It has to do with the tithe. And it's something that is sometimes uncomfortable for people to talk about because they don't know what it means and how it should be done, because we all want to be right with Yah. The descendants of Levi, Yahweh says that I have given the entire 10th. I've given them the 10th of the produce collected in Israel. Okay, so the 10th is associated with that which has to do with what? If it's produce, if we're talking about produce, what are we talking about? Where's the produce come from? What are we talking about?
Land.
You coming from the land. Okay, and it's collected, right? It's their inheritance, right? For what? Payment. Where's payment? Shalem. If there's no or lo shalem, right? Say there's lo shalem. There's no. Lo means no. There's no shalem, then there's no what?
Payment.
There's no payment. But remember, what's the result of payment?
No peace.
Peace. So there's no shalem, there will be no
Peace.
shalom.
Shalom. Yeah.
So if you said something, the only way you can make it right is go back and make the payment. So we can have peace. This is Yah's way. When the Israelites didn't make payment to Yah, there's problems. Not only the problem of the Levites not being able to eat, but also too, there's a problem. And when Yaakov made this vow, he not only made it for himself, but he made it for all of his descendants here after him. Payment is part of this. And their payment for rendering service in the tent of meeting, because they have no inheritance. That's their inheritance. The produce of the field is part of their inheritance. You understand? That's another part of it. Out of that 10th that they've collected from the people, Yahweh says that he wants a 10th out of the 10th. I want a 10th out of the 10th. Tell the Leviim, which is the Levites, not the Kohanim, the Levites. And their job is to do the collecting on behalf of Yahweh as a payment. When you take from the people of Israel the 10th of the produce, which I have given you from them as your inheritance, you are to set aside from it a gift for Yahweh, a 10th of a 10th. I'm sharing these principles with us because I told you on Yom Kamishi, which is known as the modern day THURSDAY, that you and I are going to be the Kohanim, a kingdom of Kohanim found in Exodus chapter number 19. That is your mandate to become a priest, a kingdom of priests to me. So within our kingdom, we have a priesthood, right? And they have workers that work for them. Look at the structure. Look at the structure, everyone. The Creator is using the Levites to show us what our job is going to be. Okay? When he talked, right? Our job is to work and do service for Yah, right? But our service is not going to be in the temple. Our service is going to be in the world. Okay? And when we bring everything that we get from the nations to Yahweh, right? Then they're going to be like we are to the Leviim. They're going to be that to us. Okay? So we're going to be collecting. And we're going to be bringing what they gave us to Yahweh. And Yah says, out of what you gave, what they was collected for me, take a 10th out of that for me. And the rest you can have for your service for me. Because Yahweh believes in shalom. Yahweh believes in payment. This is part of Yahweh's program. And he showed us that in our Torah portion this week. I want to discuss a little bit about this idea about the Kohen, or Kohain, or Kohanim. Okay, neem here means plural in Hebrew. Kohen is this word right here. And out of that word, you have two letters that Yah wants us to focus on, which is the C, and that would be called the Kaf. Okay, the next letter is the Nun. Okay, final Nun. Okay, and these two letters right here in Hebrew represent something. So the root is this letter right here, the parent root, more specifically, the parent. Okay, this right here is like a child root. Okay, but I want to tell you what the parent means. So from the picture graph of the Kaf, do you guys remember what the letter Kaf represents in Hebrew? You got it. You got it. It's the palm of the hand. The Nun right here, Nun or Nun, whatever you call it, the seed. Okay. So you got the palm and you got a seed. Okay. So the palm is open. Okay. So what this means, this letter Cain, you know, if someone says something and it was good, you would say, or yes, you would say Cain. Have you heard Hebrews going around saying Cain, Cain, Cain? Let it be what? Let it be so. Okay. Let it be what it is. Okay. So this idea of a Cain means open the seed. What happens to a seed once it opens?
It grows.
Sprouting.
Yeah, it sprouts. And what does it sprout? And where does it sprout? It's in the ground. You plant the seed in the ground.
It starts to sprout roots.
It sprouts roots. Perfect. The roots are sprouting in the ground. Okay, so here's the ground. Here's the ground. You put the seed in it. The seed pops open and the roots come out. Once it starts doing that, it has a firm what?
Roots, foundation.
Foundation. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Kavika. Has a firm foundation. Once it starts growing and there's growth, the stem comes out and that becomes straight. Keep changing colors. It becomes straight and it has to be firm. You understand? Once a stalk comes out of the ground, it has to be firm, but it's only as firm as its root system. The root system to the children of Israel is who? According to this, Kohain or Kohanim. You understand? Kohain singular, Kohanim plural. The Kohanim are recognized as the priest. Okay? So without a firm foundation, without a straight firmness and a reliable and trusted foundation, okay, a very strong root system, everything above the ground, that whatever grows up out of that ground will fail if this system down here is compromised. If the root system is compromised, then the whole entire plant fails. So our idea of having a Kohanim in our community was very important. It was the structure and the foundation of the community. In the Tanakh, the prophets, in the writings, Yah gives a lot of instructions to these individuals and tell them that your job is to teach the people what I said and show them the difference between clean and unclean, show them the difference between that which is pure, which is impure, make decisions about judgments and everything. So if they fail, then the system fails, you see? Now, taking it like we don't have a priesthood at this time, right? It's active. We don't have an active one, not for us as a community. But what we do have, listen to this so you can put it all in perspective because we're not religious, okay? Yah has used agriculture to teach us. So the root system, okay, you have in your home, okay? The father of the house is the priest. He's the foundation. He's the firmness. So people are mad because the father says this, this, and that, and he's firm and they don't like it. You got to go talk to Yah. Why? Because Yah put that man in that position to be the firmness of the foundation. Because if it's not done the way that it needs to be done, if it's not straight, then the house is going to fall. The tree is going to go sideways. What do they do with a tree that's coming out of the ground, is growing on an angle? What's the first thing that a good plant, a good farmer would do? What would they do to that tree?
Tie like a stick to it.
They're going to go get a straight rod or stick, and they're going to put it on the side of that stem or that tree trunk, okay, or stalk, and cause it to grow straight. And they're going to tie it and bind it next to that, which is indicative of what you would call discipline. This is the reason why, as a people, we have failed Yahweh, is because the Kohanim had failed to do their job. This is the reason why households are not working properly, because no one wants to understand Yahweh's ways. It is not because the woman is imperfect, and it's not because the man is perfect. It's simply because the two individuals don't understand what Yahweh's ways are. They want to do it their way, and as long as you and I keep doing things our way, people, you're never going to have shalom in your home. So I'm trying to make it make sense for us, because often we want to be religious and say, oh, well, we don't have a priesthood, and that only applied to the priest. No, it applies to your home. Everything is a picture of something else. See, the goal of the Kohanim was to make sure and manage the people so the homes could be right. It starts in the home, and then it flourishes out from there. In the home, you got a mother and a father. That's a root. Then you have a child. That's a child root, and they grow up. So if you don't teach your children the way that Yah said, then you're doing your child a disservice. And then you're going to get the results you're getting. The collection was a good part of this, okay? Yah says, from everything given to you, you are to set aside all that is due Yahweh. And I don't want just any old part of it. I want the best part. Because the best part of anything is the Kadosh portion. So Yah gives us a clue here to tell us the best part of anything is that which is Kadosh. That Kadosh means to be set apart. I don't want what you gave to everybody else. I want the best of the best. So if you got the 10th, they're supposed to give you the best of what they have. You see how it all goes down? So it starts off with Yisrael, right? Then it goes to the Leviim, right? Then it goes to the Kohanim. And the Kohanim represent Yahweh. These guys right here are the workers. And supposed to get it from them. So they're supposed to give the best. They take that 10th and they take another 1/10 of that 10th and give Yah the best of that best. And that is which is called Kadosh. That's what Yah needs. And that's what he's asking for. Oh, is this only applied to the Kadosh portion of the stuff that's in the field of the land that you and I are not part of? No, it's a concept. It's a mindset. If you're going to give Yahweh anything, he's telling you and I want the best part of it. Dawid, why are you getting your feathers ruffled? Why are you operating in a PL form? Why are you going ballistic? Why are you being forceful? Because Yah said, you talk to my people, you tell them in a forceful manner. I want the best of your life. I don't want the worst of your life. I don't want the worst part of your day. I don't want nothing from you if you're going to give me this stuff all half-heartedness. I want the best of you. I want the best of your mind. I want the best of your emotions. I want the best of your talents. I want the best of your time. I want the best that you can give me. Yah requires that from his people because our Father vowed and said, if you would give me food and clothing, protect me and bring me back in peace to my Father's house, I'll give you 1/10 of everything. And he did bring him back to his Father's house. And he did give him clothing. And he did bring him in shalom. He made sure that he was paid. And based on that alone, demands for his descendants to honor that vow. There's a penalty. There's a penalty for this. Moreover, because you will have set aside from its best parts, you will not be committing any sin because of it. Why? Because you understand who you're dealing with. Because I commanded you to give me the best of the best. For you are not to profane the set apart things, the people of Israel, or you will die. Again, making a distinction between those things in which Israel is given and that which has been made best and set apart for Yah. He wanted them to be careful. I heard a guy on a video the other day that said he was reading something out of the book of Numbers and talking about the job and responsibilities of the Leviim and said it was easy. This is easy. We can do this. And I commented and said, no, you can't. What do you think? You think worshiping Yah is easy? You think you don't have to be careful? You don't think you can be put to death? When we read today that Yah says, be careful, let the words that come out of your mouth. If you said something to me and you didn't follow up with it, if you said something to somebody else and you lied, I'm going to hold you responsible and I will destroy you. What is that telling us? You got to be careful what you say and you have to be careful what you do. They had to be careful and so do we, because they're not there to be a religious group people. They're there to teach. They're there to help. They're there to assist. They're there to support. That's what a foundation does as well. It supports. You need a good support system. And it can only happen if it's firm. Yah's not playing games. The tenth is kadosh. It's set apart. All the tenth given from the land, whether from the planted seed or the fruit trees. I don't care if it's coming out of the ground. I don't care if it's coming from the trees. Belongs to Yahweh. It is kadosh to Yahweh. If someone wants to redeem any of this, his tenth, he must add to it 1/5, which is 20%. All the tenth from the land of the herd and the flock, or the flock, whatever passes under the shepherd's crook, the tenth will be kadosh to Yahweh. I want the tenth of everything. I want every sheep that pass under the crook, the 10th one belongs to me. And if you want to buy it back, it's going to cost you 25%. There is a payment. Not only death, but there's a payment. There's a shalom. There won't be any shalom without shalom. There's a payment. You see, you got to add 20%. That's a payment. That's a penalty for a payment penalty. You understand? Also, too, the property. You're not to eat this on your own property. The 10th, the tithe of your grain, new wine, olive oil that you set aside for Yahweh, or the firstborn of your cattle or sheep, or any offering you have vowed, or your voluntary offering, or the offering from your hand. You can't eat it at your own house in their day. They had to bring it to Yahweh. They couldn't eat it on their own property. However, the Leviim, they could eat wherever they wanted to. So there were some rules and regulations. But for us, when we were in our land, it's the presence of Yahweh that a person was supposed to bring. Now, I wanted to give you an understanding to let you know when the tithes were supposed to be collected. The tithes were collected every year from the children of Israel. The Leviim didn't wait, okay? There was every year, but there's another part as well, okay? So there's two times. There's every year and there's every 3 years, okay? And every year is for the Leviim. You must take 1/10, which is a tithe of everything your seed produces in the field, and eat it in the presence of Yahweh your Elohim in the place where he chooses to have his name live. You will eat the 10th of your grain, new wine and olive oil, and the firstborn of your cattle and the sheep, so that you will learn. Because Yahweh is interested in us learning and them learning through what? Doing what I say. When he talks about learning to fear Yahweh, is by doing what he says, about going where he says and doing exactly what he says. Neither going to the right, neither going to the left, neither deviating, because he's our shepherd, he's directing us. There was a purpose behind the tithe. The tithe, he says, after you have separated 1/10 of the crops and yielded in the 3rd year, the year of separating a 10th, and have given it to the Lewi, the foreigner, the orphan, the widow, so that they can have enough food to satisfy themselves while staying with you. So these were the 4 classifications of people that the children of Israel were responsible for feeding. The Lewi, the foreigner, the widow, and the orphan. That's the 4 classifications of the people that they're responsible for. So wasn't they responsible just for themselves and their households and their families, for their son, their daughter, their wife, their servant, because there's another 4. So you have 4 classifications of people here, and then you have another 4. You got you got to provide your wife with food, clothing, and shelter. Your son, your daughter, and your servant, if you had them. So there's literally 8 classifications of people that you had to provide for. You see? So the responsibility for Yisrael, and that's going to be the responsibility for the nations. Yah has just set up the system. He set up the foundation to teach us what is going to be in the future. I want to bring that point out so you won't get confused, like, well, that's just for the Levites. No, it's a system. It's a root system. It's a foundational system. Okay. So in the past, you and I have been told, and that was the purpose of the 10th and the tithe. You've been told in the past, okay, This is something that was in the past that was mentioned to us in our idolatry. It says, can a person rob Elohim? Yet you rob me, but you ask, how have we robbed you? In tithes or tenths and voluntary contributions. Not just in tenths if you rob me, but in voluntary contributions. A curse is on you and on your whole nation because you robbed me. In context, he was talking to the Kohanim because they were not asking. They were not doing their job. That's why he says you and this whole nation, your whole nation. Bring the whole tenth into the storehouse. Why? To feed the widow, to feed the Levim, to feed the stranger and the orphan, so that there will be food in my house. And put me to the test, says Yahweh Zavaoth, and see if I won't open for you the floodgates of heaven and pour out for you a blessing far beyond your needs. Having to do with rain, having to do with that which is needed for the soil in order to produce. There's a certain rain that is only exclusive to the land of Israel. That's why he says, when you get back, I can increase you and you have enough food to go through 3 years because you had so much that was in your storehouse. Yes, there will be waste because you'll have too much. I'll bless you so much, you won't have enough room to receive anything. You see? And then he goes on later on in this in particular text to talk about, I'm going to rebuke the devourer, meaning the worms and all these other insects that come to eat up your crops, because Yah's in charge. That's part of his army. And that's how he would work with us, is through vegetation and through fruits and through the tithes. So anytime there was a lack of food, then they would understand. The Kohanim should understand. And the people, if they were taught properly, would understand. And you and I should understand that when there's a lack of abundance and a lack of food, then Yah is angry and he's mad because someone is not doing what they said. Presently today, you and I are not in our land, and we are not, I would say, held under the idea of what's being spoken here. We're not, because we don't have our priesthood in place. Well, where are we and what are we to do? That would be the question. The question would be, is one responsible for tithing in any format or any manner and in the way that they would subscribe or want to do it themselves? Could they do this? And my answer to you would be this, is that it's never a bad time to do good. But don't try to put in place a fake, false, unqualified, unregistered priesthood that has not been established by the Most High Yah. That's what our people are doing. You have organizations today that are saying that they're the Kohanim. You have organizations today that said they're Leviim. They have no proof, evidence, record, register to prove it. Where do I get this information from? I get it from the book of Ezra and the book of Nehemiah, where they went and they had a registry to find out if these people were entitled to receive an offering, to receive a tithe, to receive the food, because this is how they lived and this was their inheritance. So in all fairness, one should not say they're Leviim or Kohanim if they're not, because what you're doing is you're actually robbing and taking away their right that's not theirs, okay? And you're being false because Yah has not established that in the lands of our exile. Now, I said one can take on the position of a priest while they're in their home, but he's not a Levite. He's operating as the concept of being the firm foundation of his home. He is responsible for teaching his family the Torah, which is a great responsibility. It should not be taken lightly. It's not a game. It should be taken with a great deal of seriousness and also with caution, because you could be responsible for misdirecting your family in a way that you shouldn't. You're making provisions for them to do things that they should not be doing because you fail to understand the seriousness of the responsibility to be a priest in your home. Okay. So presently, we've been uprooted. We've been uprooted. And what do I mean by uprooted? Well, according to what we learned today, the root system of the community of Yisrael for all 12 tribes has been the Kohanim. It has been the family of Levi. There are the root system. They are the firmness. They're the ones. But if they're not in play, Yah says, I'm going to rip you out of the land. And he has. And there's a scripture that you can find in the book of Hosea, I believe it's in chapter number 3, that said you're going to abide many days without a priesthood. You're not going to have one. Okay. So we're not religious. Okay. But let's understand that we're uprooted. We're in exile. We've been banished from our native land. And that's because of our actions, our conduct. But you still can do good. You still can vow to Yah to do some good things. If you want to give a 10th of your time, you could do that. If you want to give a 10th of your resources, you could do that. If you want to give a 10th of whatever it is that you have, you could do that. If you want to help the widow and the fatherless, which we always should do because we're Yahweh's people, you should do that. But I also caution you to understand, and I want you to get this and get it today and get it good, okay? When he talks about the widow and he talks about the stranger and he talks about the fatherless, okay? And he talks about the foreigner. Understand when they lived in the community of Israel, they lived in a way that allowed them to be taken care of by the Creator. They were under the same Torah law that everyone else was. So there's no provision for individuals that are fatherless if they're deliberately going against the Most High. If a person's not following the Torah, you're not obligated. You're not obligated to continue to support a rebel. You support that. Listen what I'm telling you. Support means financial, emotional. So if we're going to support anything, think about being a Kohanim in that sense of being a firm foundation to make sure that something's straight. Support those things that are going to be straight. Support those things that are going to be righteous. Support those things that are going to be beneficial to not only you, but everyone else. So that's the caution that I would say as a leader. That I'm not going to give to anybody that's not following the Most High. I'm not supporting, I don't care if they're fatherless, if they come from a place where they don't want to learn. I'm not going to support the widow who decides that she's going to be a widow, but she don't want to follow any instructions about the Most High. That's it. Because the people that were living in those communities in our land that didn't follow what the Most High said were destroyed. They were put out of the community and they didn't receive anything. So let's use that idea and that concept of support. Because I know everyone says, well, what should I do? Should I give money to people and let people borrow money that they're not going to pay me back? Should I give my money to a heathen? And the answer is no. Yah has given us a mind. He's given us the idea of understanding what wisdom and righteousness is. Loan people money that you know that are living a righteous life. Loan people money that you know that they'll pay you back. Be supportive to that which is good. So you can take those ideas of Kohanim and you can apply those principles without even literally having on a linen tunic and walking around the temple. I'll move a little faster now. There was a stone that he laid his head on in our Torah portion. There was a stone, the same stone he set up to be a standing stone, and he poured oil on it and said, this will be the house of Elohim. There was a stone that was on the well that he moved. There was a great stone that he moved away from the well so the sheep can drink. There was a stone that Yaakov and Laban that they had set up to make their covenant. This word stone was used quite often. And I asked the Most High, what is it about the stone that you want to share with us? Since it's mentioned. And you had a direct object marker, an eth on the stone, meaning a aleph and the tav was always on this word. That is the direct object marker. So in Hebrew, you would see this and you were like, okay, that's an arrow pointing directly to the stone. What do you want to show me about the stone? What's so important about the stone? What is one to derive from this idea of a stone? So let's look at some ideas and let's try to get some understanding about a stone. Stones are very important, okay? They come from the root, a parent root, a bet, and a nun, or some pronounce it as noon, okay? So a stone in the Hebrew is called an aven, okay? But you and I know that there is no letter V in the Hebrew language. So really what it would be is an aleph, excuse me, it's not an aleph, an ayin, a bet, and a noon. That's what you call a stone, okay? So the letter bet has a V sound when it doesn't have a dot in it, okay? But its original writing, it is A-B-N-E-N, excuse me, A-B-E-N, Aben, okay? But it's called Avin, okay? But Avin. So the root of this are these two letters right here. The first one is a bet, okay? The second one is a nun or noon. What is a bet? Somebody tell me.
Dwelling, the tent.
Dwelling, tent, or house. And who dwells in the house?
Family.
Family. What is the nun?
See,
So we're talking about the seed of the family. That's what we're talking about. The seed of the family. Going back to our agricultural terms, as you can see in the Hebrew language, it is very agricultural, okay? So we learned about root taking place under the ground, which is called a kohen or a cane, right? Now we're talking about a bane. They say bin in English, but it's bane. And a bane is a what? If he's the seed of the family, what's a bane?
So
That's a son. Okay. Okay. So the Most High, in his awesome knowledge and wisdom and understanding, is telling us through these stones about a son. And he's telling us about not only son, but he's talking about other things that are connected to this word. So I'm going to give you a few other words that are connected to this. Okay. So we have, and basically a son is, just to give you more information, if the bet is a tent and it's a house and it's a dwelling, right, for the family, the nun is the seed, right, which is of the family. The seed is something that's going to sprout, but it has this idea of continuance. So the continuance of the house. So the house of a man is only continued by the sons that he has. So if he only has one son and that son screws up, that's it. The name of that father and that son is gone. That's it. That's why it was like such a blessing to have a lot of different sons, because it means that the house will become, it will continue, but also too, the more sons that someone had, the stronger the house became. Okay, so the stronger home, because your sons would stand up for you. They would do work in the fields. They would shepherd your sheep and your oxen. So this is the purpose of having sons. Okay, to continue the family, to grow the family. Okay, and has another agricultural aspect of it, which deals with how to replace the tent panels, the doors, or the walls of the house. The daughters they have their name within this too. Okay, you call them the Benoth, meaning daughters. But there's idea of building called Banah. So you got Bain for a son. You got Banah means to build. Okay, right? But when you build something, you need to have what they call a bin. And a bin is a plan. You can't have a plan if you still need a bet and a noon, a bet and a noon. You can't have a plan, or you could have one, but you also have to have what they would call understanding. Okay. So that would be bayin, which is understanding. You can't build nothing without a plan. You can't have a plan without any understanding or what they would call skill. And our skill would be what we would call our intelligence, which has to do with the way your mind works. Okay. So this is a big part of our study. That stone is not there just to tell us, well, he had a stone under his head and there was a stone here and stuff. The Most High is putting an aleph tav on it to let you know, I need you to really look at this. I need you to really look at what's being said here. So intelligence, skill, understanding, building, plan, and that's how you do it. So it's this idea of building, okay? And you do that. And so really, he's telling us too, that if you don't have intelligence, you don't have skill, you don't have understanding, you won't be able to plan, and you shouldn't build anything. And more than anything, you shouldn't build a family. If you lack intelligence, skill, and understanding and a plan, you shouldn't have a family. You should not have a family because it's going to destroy, you're going to destroy them. You understand? You shouldn't have children if you don't have a plan. If you're not willing to build, you can't do it. If you are, and you woke up to this truth and you do have a family and you never had any structure before, try to put some structure in place. They might be receptive, they may not be, but still attempt to do it. Okay. So the idea behind this whole entire understanding of Leah and Raquel and Yaakov and Laban and his sons and everyone has this idea of building. Laban was trying to build his wealth. That's what he was trying to build. His daughters and also Bilhah and Zipporah, they were trying to build something too, and let's get into it. As you see, I have all these little circles here, all these little slides. Conflict, contest, contention, cooperation, confirmation, confrontation, and condition. I said, Yah, what is it? Tell the people that in order to build a relationship with me, you're going to have conflict. Being with Yahweh is not easy. There's going to be a conflict. There can be a conflict within oneself, but there can also be a conflict within the dynamic that you live in. It could be in the family. The children of Israel had great conflict. And the reason why they had this conflict was because of the family that they were in. And the family is the foundation. So Yahweh saw that Leah was unloved, and so he made her fertile while Raquel remained childless. Leah was there and they said, unloved, that's not true. She wasn't unloved. What was she, Dr. Ured?
Was she hated?
Thank you. Answer. She was hated. And guess what? It wasn't hated in an ED past tense. It was hating. It was a participle. It was a continual present tense hatred. And hatred wasn't just an emotion, it was an action. She was being shunned. She was being shunned. Why?
Because she was not fertile.
No, Leah was fertile.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
He loved Raquel.
Raquel.
She was, yeah, she was being hated because her husband didn't want her.
It was a second choice.
Yeah, she was second choice. She wasn't his first choice. She had they said she had droopy eyes and she looked wearied. She looked always tired. She wasn't a very attractive woman. It said Raquel was beautiful and she had a beautiful form. She had a beautiful body and she had a beautiful look. The only thing about her to say that she was weary. She was not attractive at all. She was hated, shunned. Okay. I'm only going to talk to you about 4 of her sons though. The first one is called Rishon. Rishon is not the name of the son. Rishon is the name that represents first. Okay, in Hebrew it means first. Rishon. Rishon. Okay, it's the first son. Her first son that she had was called Reuven. In his name, as you know, in Hebrew, there is no letter V. There is a letter, there should be a B, which is a bet. Okay? And a bet means what? House, family, dwelling, tent, right? Means that. Okay? But let's look what was also in his name, those two letters. So you got a bin, you got a bin again, a bet and a noon. And what's a bet and a noon means? What is Bain? It's a son. We know that a son is someone who builds the family. So she's in the process of putting a picture together. She's in the process of building her family. And so she says that, and Reu means to see, that she says that, behold, look, I had a son. For she said, it's because Yahweh has seen how afflicted, okay, I am. That word they had in English to be humiliated. It really means to be afflicted. That means I have been afflicted, but now my husband will love me. She's after the love of her husband. The reason why Yah decided to choose her and open her womb is simply because she was hated. And she's hated like him. She's not attractive. Nobody wants her. Nobody wants our creator. They don't want him. They hate him. They hate him and they shun him because he's not their first choice. And we saw that in our Haftarah when you read the book of Hosea. It talks about go marry a whore. A whore would choose somebody else over her husband. So Yah has shown us that Leah is literally a example of how the creator is being treated. That's how the creator is being treated. He's hated. So she said, hey, behold, he's given me a son because Yah has seen my affliction, letting us know that Yah does see. The second one is Shani. And Shani means the second. The second son is called Shimon. She conceived again and gave birth to a son, another Bain. So you can see that idea again of the bet and a noon, meaning son. So she's what? She's building. What? A family. And it was because Yahweh has heard. Okay, so this boy's name has to do with hearing. And we know in Hebrew, that name is Shema. That's what his name is based off of, Shema, meaning listen and hear. Why? Because Yahweh has heard that I am not unloved, past tense, I'm currently hated. They're continuing to hate me. They still hate me. And she's still looking for her husband to love her. Therefore, he has given me this son also. So she named him Shimon. One other point that I forgot to make mention about when we think about Reuven is that when she's building, the nation of Israel has been built upon affliction. The house is built on hatred. The house is built on being afflicted. That's one of the reasons why you and I are going through what we're going through. And I'll get more in detail in that in just a moment. So she put her first panel in her house is about affliction. So what kind of house is she building? Interesting, huh? So the first panel is afflicted because I'm hated. The second one is Yah has heard me because they hate me. My husband hates me. Not only does my husband hate me, everybody else hates me. She's shunned. Third, Shalishi. The next son that she had, once more she conceived and had a son. She had another Bain. She had another tent panel. Another portion of her family. Another part of her building. And this one here is called Levi. She said, now at this time, my husband will be joined to me. I put these in this color coordinated, this right here, to go with joined. And then I put the other one in this color to let you know that that's me. That little part I right there means me. So when you talk about Lewi, she's saying she's giving us a message. The first letter of that is a L. In Hebrew, it would be called a lamed. With the proper color, Dawid. Okay. The second letter that's being used, because there is no vowel right there, is a wa. Okay. And the last one right here is a yod. Okay. That's how you spell his name. Okay. It comes from this word called lawa. That's where his names come from, lawa. Lawa means to be joined. What does a lamed mean?
Staff.
It's a staff.
Authority.
It has to do with authority. What else does it mean?
Used to herd and shepherding.
Lead, shepherd through the staff, right? What else? Learn. Okay, so it has to do with learning. Okay, what is the wah? The tent peg. Oh, I just told you. What does a tent peg do?
Hold up the tent.
It holds up the tent. It joins the tent to the ground. It joins that which is unstable to that which is firm. And the yod, again, is meaning he, or possessive meaning my. Okay, and in hand. Okay, so when you look at the word Lewi, it means the staff and the authority that leads people or individuals or sheep or whoever to learning. So when you talked earlier about the Kohanim and the Lewiim, their job is to cause people to learn and to lead, okay, with the staff, to make them straight, to stay on the right path. She's saying that this is going to lead my husband back to me. He'll finally be joined to me. So the Creator has used Lewi to what? To join.
Join
To who?
to him.
To him. So when she said that Lewi, my husband, will be joined to me, Yah has used Lewi to join the children of Israel to him. Because she's asking them, this child, to join. Why? Because her husband what? He hates her. That's what lets you know that Yah has used her to tell us that you guys hate me. And I'm trying to get you to join back with me. I've been trying to hold on to you. You don't want to hold on to me. You want another God. I'm not your first choice. So just like she's trying to get her husband to join to her, I'm trying to get you to join to me. Do you guys see that? That's found in his name. Yah's trying to get us to join to him, because if he can join us to him through him, he's the connection. The wa means and it means to connect. So the Creator's trying to stay connected to us. And the only way he's connected to us is through him, through that family. That's why he told us, you go collect the tithes and you bring it to me. You do it for the children of Israel. You see? Then outside that family, I'm going to choose the Kohanim that are going to be the representative of what I said. So when there's no Lewiim, there is no connection. And this is what I've been trying to get our people to understand and to accept. I want those who are listening to me by live stream and YouTube to finally understand it and get it in your mind that if you're not connecting the people to Yahweh, and you should be very careful about saying that you're a Leviim or Kohanim. You have to be able to connect them back to Yahweh, and you're not. So stop saying that you're a Kohanim. You're not. Prove it. Revi'i, which is fourth, her fourth son, Yehuda, she conceived yet again, had a son, said, this time I will praise Yahweh. Therefore, she named him Yahudah. That word right there that she said, I will praise, was a word called Auda. That's what she said. It was an aleph on the front of Uda. Okay. Here it's a yod. Yod in Hebrew means he. So now she's had this great success. She has a bigger house, bigger family. She's after her family's love. And then she finally understands that now it's time for me to give Yah praise. Therefore, she named him Yehudah. Okay. Not Yahudah. His name is Yehudah. Okay. So the Yah means he and the Uda means praise. So this in particular son will be the one who will lift his hands up like I did. Why? Because I've been finally joined to my husband. And also too, because women would say, guess what? You got all you're building a house. But look how our house is built on. Our house is built in the foundation of his affliction. She said after that affliction, she's being hated. Hatred is part of the building process. She understands that, Yah has heard that she's hated. She said that now I want to join. I want to be joined to my husband. And after I'm joined, then I'll give the praise. So you need both Lewi and Yehuda in order for us to be connected to Yah in order to give him praise. So Yehuda can't give Yah praise without Lewi. That's what I'm trying to tell you, because Levi is the one who's supposed to bring the offerings and the contributions and the things that Yah has asked for. I want a piece of that tenth that I gave you, like your father. So if you can't give me the tenth, there ain't nothing to talk about. Not if it ain't coming out the land. It ain't nothing for you and I to talk about. You're in exile, people. You understand? The conflict was that the contest was that when Raquel saw that she was not bearing children for Yaakov, she envied her sister and said to Yaakov, give me children or I will die. This made Yaakov angry at Raquel. Okay. And he answered, am I in Elohim's place? He's the one who is denying you children. This is true. When it said that Leah conceived but Raquel remained barren, it wasn't she just was barren, it's because Yah had closed her womb. He opened the wound of the one who's hated. He allowed the one to build the one who's hated. The reason why Yah closed her wound is because he knew Raquel's heart. When it says that she envied her sister, she envied her and she had a rivalry for her. She's the one who was hating her sister. Just like how Esau hated Yaakov. Yah doesn't reward our behavior when you and I are in a place of envy and strife and contention. When we're operating out of contest, things can go bad. Her desire was this, as all women and all men are after, more specifically women. They want to know that they have value. And if they don't have that value, they're not able to build. She said, here is my maid, Bilhah. Go sleep with her and let her give birth to a child that will be laid on my knees so that through her I can build a family. We understand from our teaching that the word build comes from this word banah, B-A-N-A-H, a bet and a noon, which has to do with a son. Okay. And if it wasn't, and the son is part of that root, throw a hail in there, banah. Okay. So building is part of this. So I want to build a family too. I want to help build this house. I'm tired of her succeeding and me not. That's where that envy comes in. I see that Elohim is doing great things to her. What about me? I think things could have been a little different if she had a different attitude, but she didn't. She was jealous and she was envious of her sister. So she gave her this maid. And this maid servant that her father gave her is called Bilhah. And Bilhah means a person who's troubled, a person who's trembling all the time, okay, who's scared, who's timid, okay. And so these characteristics that are in these people are being passed on to the bane, to the son. So when you look and when we continue in our studies, you're going to find that these sons are the way that they grew up in. So the conditions of Leah with Reuben, she was being afflicted, and you wonder why he turned around and did what he did. You look at the circumstances of Shimon, you know, she wanted Yah to hear her. You don't think she was having conversation. You think she was quiet all the time. You don't think she was bringing her concerns to her husband and her family. You don't think that she felt ostracized. So you wonder around what's wrong with that boy, because she passed it on to him. This information is being transmitted through the family. So when Bilhah got here, she's the one who built this part of the tent, and part of this family is somebody who brought trouble. She took a woman who was troubled and timid and said, let's build with her. And that's what happens when we're envious. You'll get into some trouble. You'll build something that you don't supposed to, not the way you're supposed to. So this in particular son named Don, Bilhah conceived and bore Yaakov a son. Rachel said, Elohim has judged in my favor. Indeed, he has heard me and has given me a son. Therefore, she called him Don, he judged. So again, we went over Don before. If you know this, the Dalet means the door. The name of the letter is a Dalet. It means a door. The noon right here is a seed, and it means to continue. And so if a seed continues and the door continues to what? And a seed represents life. So what? The door of life, right? So the door of life. And that's what a judge does. They make sure that there's life, okay? So within this, she thought she was Yah judged in her favor by saying, hey, I've heard you, now I'm going to judge in your favor. Why? Because she's in a contest, okay? And not only is she in a contest, she's dealing with competition. And in her competition, Bilhah, Rachel's slave girl, conceived again and bore Yaakov a second son. Rachel said, I have wrestled mightily with my sister and won, because she's in a competition, and called him Naphtali, my wrestling. So you can see the dynamic of this family. You can see the conflict that our family was built upon. Our family was built upon not being heard. Our family was built upon being hated. Our family was built upon feeling insignificant. Our family is built upon favoritism. Our family was built upon not being respected. Our family is built upon being loved because the way you looked and how you shaped versus who you are as a character. Never consider what Leah's character was. Never. You see? So that's what our father did. And that's part of our family. So when I'm talking about these things, I'm not talking about just them. I'm talking about us. Okay? So our family's been built upon war and conflict, right? So what does the Torah teach us? The Torah of Moshe teaches us that do not take your wife's sister as a rival wife and have sexual relationships with her while your wife is living, excuse me. So why? Because there's that rivalry. There's that contention. There's that contest and that competition. And Yah doesn't want that. So you can see how Yah has handcrafted, designed instruction for us to avoid future problems for our family. This is not a magical thing. Our family has been birthed in some really messed up circumstances. The family that we were born into have been some families stuff that's been really bad. And it's been bad for us as a nation. And it's because of these things that have caused our problems. But she was consoled. She had a son. Then Elohim took note of Rachel. After she's been, humiliated and waiting and having slave girl bring forth her children, having this timid, terrified, shaky lady, being responsible for her son. Heeded her prayer and made her fertile. Okay. So he gave her the ability to have children. She conceived and had a son and said, Elohim has taken away my disgrace. So our mothers were living in a time in which they were dealing with things like our women today. Okay. And because the mother was dealing with this was transmitted onto the son. She called him Yosef, meaning may he add, saying, may Yahweh add to me another son. She was smart. She was like, hey, this happened. Yah heard me. And this is something you and I can learn. If you pray to Yah and he answers your prayer, your response should be that Yah would add to you again. that you would continue to be in that same vein. Because if you notice, everything that we're talking about here is their connection with the Creator. They were going to Yah. They come from a household of idolatry. Their father was a shyster. He was a liar. He was a hustler, right? And so you can see, like, that was even in Rivkah. She knew exactly how to disguise, Yaakov to get the blessing, just like Lavan had disguised Leah so she could be Rachel. She pulled a fast one. So this is in that family. And so when we look at this family, right, you got two sides to your family. You got two sides to this root. It's not just the seed of the man, it's the ground that is coming out of. You understand? So Yaakov is laying seed, okay, in land that has been dealing with idolatry. And this is part of who they are. And that's part of who we are. You can't deny this Arami, this Syrian attitude that you and I have. You just think you're an African American, and that's not true. You're a Hebrew Israelite, but you also have in your veins the blood and the juices of these individuals. You might have some Lavan in you. You might have some Leah. You may have this attitude of Raquel. You might have Bilhah. You might have Ziplah. You might have that in. You might have this idea of competition and conflict and conquest and war and battle, and it's this desire to win. You might be a troubled person, and you're wondering where it's coming from. But what we can take from this is understand that the Creator has used these things. He's used conflict, and he used this attitude of building a family to bring about the desires that he chose and that he's choosing. You understand? So what I'm saying to you is that this is how their relationships were built with Yah. Yah used the opportunity to build a family to build his relationship with him. So if Yah has given you a family, he's giving you an opportunity to build a relationship with him. There really is no reason to have a family if you're not interested in building a relationship with Yah. Even our father Abraham said, what good is all these lands if you haven't given me a son to inherit these things? So it's very important for us to understand, okay, the dynamic of a family, okay? The family format in the family is used to build our relationship with Yah. It's there to give us a plan and to help us facilitate the growth and the development of the future of our family. You understand? So this is what this is about. It's about protecting the family. But our family is built on conflict. It's built on competition. It's built on coercion. It's built on lies, okay? There's a lot of contention. But then he heard what Lavan's sons were saying. This is talking about our father Yaakov. Yaakov was taking away everything that our father once had. It's from what used to belong to our father that he has gotten so rich. He also saw that Lavan regarded him differently than before, meaning that Yaakov had noticed this change in Lavan's mannerism towards him, or his persona, his face. He looked at him differently, and he felt it, and he understood it. His sons were saying things about him because he got very wealthy, and this is after what he did with the sheep, okay? And even within that, there was another dream. It wasn't just a dream about the ladder going from the earth into the heavens, but there was a dream that Yah came to him through the medium of a malach. So we see here then in a dream, or the dream, the malach of the Elohim said to me, he's explained to his wives that what happened to him and how he obtained all this wealth. Yaakov, and I replied, here I am, Hinei, meaning I'm present, I'm here right now. I'm at your service. He continued, this is what the malach said to him, raise your eyes now and look, all the male goats are mating with the females, are streaked, speckled and mottled. For I have seen everything that Lavan has been doing to you. Yah is communicating through the malach. I am the Elohim of Bethel. Is the malach the malach of the Elohim Yahweh? No, he's a spokesperson. He's a messenger. So the messenger is saying that I am the Elohim of Bethel. This is the message you need to go tell Yaakov. Where you anointed a standing stone with oil, where you vowed your vow to me. I'm making you remember. This is literally 20 years after he had this encounter with the Most High. Now get up and get out of this land and return to the land where you were born. Gave him command through the dream, okay? We understand that there was some cooperation throughout this whole Torah portion. This is this one time where cooperation was key. And the cooperation happened between people that were warring with each other. Raquel and Leah answered him after he told them this situation, that he wanted to go back. And he said, your father's been doing all these things to me. They said, we no longer have any inheritance from our father's possessions. And he considers us foreigners. And since he has sold us, because he did, moreover, he has consumed everything he received in exchange for us. Nevertheless, the wealth of which Elohim has taken away from our father has become ours and our children's anyway. So whatever Elohim has told you to do, then do. What was fascinating about this is that Yaakov, even though he was the man, even though he's the husband, even though he's the ruler, even though he's the judge, even though he's the priest, even though he introduced them to Yahweh, he went to his wives and he was looking for cooperation. And it was vital. Cooperation is vital for anything, for any family to succeed, for any business to succeed, for any endeavor to succeed. There has to be cooperation. There has to be cooperation in the home, in the business environment, in any relationship. And so it's always this give and take. And so he had enough confidence. I didn't have that as a slide, but he had confidence in them to share how he was feeling with his wives. And I think it's important for wives to understand that when a man comes to you and he talks to you, especially your husband, he's coming because he confides in you and he's telling you how he feels. And if you shun him and you don't want to cooperate, you don't want to understand what he's saying, things can go bad, not only for him, but it'll go bad for you too. And it was because of their cooperation that they understood that this has to do with the success and the survival of our family. They were concerned about their children's wealth, and their father has squandered everything away. He was an irresponsible man. Okay. Confirmation from this was that, but Elohim came to Lavan. Okay. So now Yah is going to confirm that I am the Elohim of Yaakov. And he does this by visiting Lavan in a dream. So this is another dream. So the dream is part of Yaakov when he was laying down there in Luz, which they called Bethel. And then he got back and then he had another dream and Amalek visited him. And now you see another dream. Okay. But Elohim came to Lavan, the Arami, okay, in a dream that night that he went and chased after Yaakov, okay, and said to him, be careful that you don't say anything to Yaakov, either good or bad, which is Tov or Ra. I don't want you to say anything to Yaakov, either good or bad. Okay. And you have to, I don't know if you guys remember, but in our Torah portion, I remember that the Creator, right, has shared with us a conversation that was had when Abraham sent his servant to go find Rivkah from that same household. And in that conversation, when he presented, this is Eleazar talking to Bethuel and Lavan, the same Lavan here, about whether or not Rivkah can go with them or with him. He says, but now, if you will show kindness and faithfulness to my master, talking about Abraham, tell me, and if not, tell me, so I might know which way to turn. Lavan and his father, Bethuel, answered, this is from Yahweh. We can say nothing to you one way or the other. So when Yah came visited Lavan in his dream, and he told him, don't say anything to Yaakov, either good or bad, or Tov or Ra, nothing miserable, hateful, nothing, or nothing pretentious, like say anything good, because if you did say something and you really didn't mean it, you're going to still deal with me. Okay. So this came from the fact that the same Elohim that they talked to, that had received information from before, I'm talking about 60 years ago, is the same Elohim that showed up to him and told him, don't say any good thing or good or bad. So it was a reminder. Yah was reminding him about what he said earlier, that I'm the same Elohim of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And so at this moment, that was that dream, because Lavan was chasing after him when he found out that he left without him telling him. There was a confrontation, okay? And so as you can see, the circumstances in which our father was under, and not only our father, but our mothers were under, and our brothers were under, and the people in the household and his servants and all these because Yaakov became very, very wealthy because of what the Malak told him to do. He had servants, he had camels, he had sheep, he had oxen, he had goats, he had it all. And that's why Lavan's sons were so angry. And again, going back to what we learned early in our Torah portions about jealousy between Abraham and Lot's, their shepherds. And then we see a jealousy that Yitzchak experienced from Abimelech and the Philistines. We see this idea that every time we go somewhere, Yah increases our wealth. And that's what causes people to be jealous and angry. And then it's like we go in empty and then we come out with everything. Okay. So this is what Lavan said in his confrontation. He said, why did you flee in secret and deceive me and not tell me? Doesn't it sound like the same thing that happened to Yaakov, where he was deceived by Lavan? I would have sent you off with joy and singing, with music of tambourines and lyres. The same tambourines, the same singing, the same lyres, the same joy that he was deceived by when he went in and lay with Leah versus Rachel. You didn't even let me kiss my sons and daughters. See the sons again? Goodbye. What a stupid thing to do. Yah said, don't say anything good or evil. He's not. He's telling the truth. Okay. He said, I have it in my power to do you harm. But the Elohim of your father spoke to me last night and said, be careful that you don't say anything to Yaakov, either good or bad. So he's letting him know that the only reason I'm not doing nothing to you is because of what your Elohim said. I know who he is. And so in the Torah, we find this idea when he said, my sons and my daughters, and also there's a big conversation about everything that you have is mine. Everything you got is mine. That's what he said in the Torah portion. He says, but this is a concept that you and I need to understand. Lavan wasn't lying. Lavan wasn't lying. And I'll explain it to you. In the Torah, it says, if you buy a Hebrew servant, he is to serve you for 6 years. But in the 7th year, he shall go free without paying anything. If he comes alone, he is to go free alone. But if he has a wife, when he comes, she is to go with him. If the master gives him a wife, and she bears him sons and daughters, the woman and her children shall belong to her master. And the only man and only the man should go free. With this concept in mind, we need to understand that Lavan was not lying. Those children belong to Lavan. And the reason why is simply because Yaakov had indentured himself to being a slave. When it talks about I'm going to be your servant, it's the same word that's used for slave for servant. Anytime that you're serving someone, you are a slave. And that is Aved, Aved, okay? Aved is a servant, which is a slave. So our father became a slave. See, and we were never told that because we didn't understand the Torah. So everything that he went in there empty, and now he's leaving with everything. He didn't supposed to. If he wanted to stay with him, he could have said, I love my master and let me stay. But Yah didn't let that happen. You understand? The only reason why Yaakov escaped is because Yahweh had helped him escape, because Yahweh became his Elohim. And because Yahweh became his Elohim, he said, if you guard my way and bring me back to peace. Well, it won't be no peace until I'm paid. Well, I've been arguing about my wages for these 10 times. Yah said, I see the way that you're treated. I'm going to give you some shalom so you can have some shalom. You see? So this idea behind us thinking that we have another Elohim, if you abandon the Elohim of our fathers, you've abandoned the idea that he's the one who brought us back to peace, to be in our land at one point. You're denying the fact that he delivered us from Lavan. You're denying the fact that he delivered us from Misraim. You're denying the fact that he delivered us from the wars that our fathers have. You're denying the fact that he's been protecting us. You're denying that, okay? Idolatry was part of this portion as well. When he confronted him, he asked him, yeah, granted that you had to leave. I understand you had to leave because you longed so deeply for your father's house, but why did you steal my gods? So he's using this as an escape to say, well, those things do belong to me and I can't take them from you because Elohim told me not to. So what I'm going to say is, I know that you desired your father's house, which is true, but why did you steal my gods? So the gods are the point of contention for Lavan. Okay. These gods were little figurines. They weren't big gods. They were little figurines like the things that they put on people's statues for Christmas, like Elf on the Shelf and that kind of thing. So these were little figurines that was taken from him. I mention this simply because the influence that, you remember, they came from a house of idolatry. Leah was part of idolatry. She was raised in idolatry. Raquel was raised in idolatry. Those sons were raised in idolatry. Rivkah was raised in idolatry. Lavan was idolatrous. Bethuel was idolatrous. Abraham's brother's wife was idolatrous. Milcah, they're all idolaters. Okay. We were born into idolatry. Okay. So I put influence simply because, and I'm going a little bit ahead right here in Bereshit 35, which will be coming up next week's Torah portion. Then Elohim said to Yaakov, go up to Bethel and settle there and build an altar there to Elohim, who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau. So Yaakov said to his household and to all who are with him, get rid of the foreign gods. Get rid of them. You have with you, and purify yourselves and change your clothes. Then come, let us go up to Bethel, where I will build an altar for Elohim, who answered me in the day of my distress and who has been with me everywhere I have gone. So they gave Yaakov all the foreign gods that they had and the rings in their ears, and Yaakov buried them under the oak of Shechem. I bring the scripture out simply to let you know that they were raised in idolatry. That's why they had these gods. You see? So Yaakov had Yahweh, his Elohim that he followed, but in his household, there were people there who were worshiping false gods. Okay. So you can be in a house with a person and you want to give them a hard time, right? And you thinking why you got the problems you have? You have the problems you have because they worship another God. They don't worship your God. Your Elohim, because the worship, and I need to be clear on this, the worship of our Elohim means that you need a life that is determined by the things that you do and your manner of life and conduct. So we would think that because you don't have a figurine, that you're not in idolatry. The figurine is just an example of it. It's just an image of it, which it's a representation of how you feel and what you think. Okay. So foreign gods for us are not just trinkets. Okay. Foreign gods can be found in Ezekiel 14. It says that you have them in your heart. So you've hidden these gods in your heart. And what I mean by hiding them in your heart is like your mind. So you have a certain way that you think. So you may say, well, my son is not an idolater. He doesn't have any figurines. He's abandoned the gods of Christmas and Easter, and he doesn't have an Easter bunny and so forth and so on. But does your son actually follow what the Most High says? That's how you know if you're an idolater. If you're doing what he says. If your children won't listen to you, they're following another God, because our Elohim says that you need to follow what he says, and he says you need to follow what your parents say. You're following your mother. See, so, and if you follow another God, guess what? You eat what you want to eat, and you do what you want to do. But our Elohim, that's not the case. So idolatry is not just in figurines. Idolatry has to do with the mindset. And I didn't say it, but it says the same message. The message that I'm telling you today is the same message as it's always been. The message is, moreover, Yahweh sent you all his servants. He sent his servants, the prophets, again, on numerous occasions. But what? But you didn't listen or pay attention. The message was always, it's never been any different, you guys. Every one of you turn back from his evil way, from the evil of your actions. Then you will live in the land Yahweh gave you and your ancestors forever and ever. Don't follow other gods by serving and worshiping them. Service and worshiping them. You may not be worshiping these gods because you don't have them in front of you, but you are serving them by doing what they tell you to do. And that's by not doing what Yahweh says. Don't provoke my anger with things your own hands have made. Then I will do you no harm. But you wouldn't listen to me, says Yahweh, so that you could provoke me with your products of your hands to your own harm. You see? So the products of your hands, it comes from your mind. What's in your mind? I want to do things this way. I want the fertility God. I want the God of wealth. I want the God of this. I want the God of that. So, okay, I'll get rid of the little trinkets, but I still have those ideas and concepts in my mind. I still haven't abandoned those things. With that, there's a judgment for that. Yah tells us that I told them, each of you is to throw away your detestable things to draw your eyes. Don't defile yourselves with the idols of Egypt. Okay, don't do this. Do not do this. I am Yahweh your Elohim, but they rebelled against me and wouldn't listen to me. They didn't. Okay, they did not, each of them, throw away their detestable things that drew their eyes, and they did not abandon the idols of Egypt. As you notice, they didn't throw away the detestable things. Okay, so they held on to them, but also they did not abandon the idols. Abandoning the idols means abandoning the mindset, abandoning the instructions and the laws that they tell you. Then I said, I would pour out my fury on them and spend my anger on them there in the land of Egypt. This is in context with Ezekiel or Yechezkel in the chapter number 20, when he asked the question, are you going to judge them? Are you going to judge the children of Israel? Because there's coming a day where I'm going to judge them. And if you are, you tell them that I said this. So Yahweh is going to destroy them while they were in Egypt, okay? Because they wouldn't get rid of their gods. And that's what he's telling us today. You have to get rid of your idols, and you have to abandon the thought of even worshiping and serving them. Okay. So yeah, you might have torn down your images of Christ, but you still have the mindset. Okay. There was an idea. Anyone knows what matzah means?
Is it seek out?
Seek out and find. Absolutely. So what Lavan was doing, he was looking for his gods. And he said, and then Yaakov said, hey, I don't know what you're talking about, because he didn't know that Raquel had stolen him. He says, but if you find your gods with someone, that person will not remain alive, and they're going to die. So with our kinsmen, with our kinsmen to witness, I'm going to let them witness. If you spy anything that I have, which belongs to you, take it back. Yaakov did not know that Raquel had stolen him. Okay. So he's letting them know, look, if you did find something that was accidentally put in with my stuff, with your stuff, you can have it back. But when it comes to this thing about a God, your gods, I want to kill that person. We're going to kill that person. Okay. So Raquel's life was on the line here. And if you know what it said, she took the idols and she sat on them on a saddle of a camel, and she pretended like she was on her menstrual. When I say pretend, I really don't know. She may have been on her cycle. It's very possible. Okay. She's probably going through her menstruation. The reason why is that is mentioned about menstrual, whether it was true or not, is simply because Yah's letting you know that idolatry is like a menstrual. It's unclean. That's why she's sitting on them. We also find that Yah is letting us know through our Father that he is the one who prescribes death for an idolater. He's prescribing death for an idolater. That's what came from our Father. So if you and I were there with them in that time, put yourself in that time frame, and there was a God that was found with us, what would happen to us?
Put to death.
You're going to be put to death. Any person. Okay. So our Father said that. Now, again, going back to what a father says, the father made the decision. He's put the judgment. If there's any gods found with you, any matzah. So the Creator is letting you and I know that if I find any gods with you, I already told your father, and now I'm going to tell you, if I find any gods with you, you're not going to remain alive. And the reason for this, everyone, is because Yaakov chose Yahweh to be his Elohim. He made a vow to him. And once you make a choice, and once you choose Yah, you got to get rid of all other gods and anything that's idolatrous in your life. That's what this is about. And Yah's letting us know that if I find any gods with you, I'm killing you. Just like I told you I was going to kill you in Egypt, but I didn't because everybody was watching. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to destroy you if I find any gods with you. So this is the time to get rid of your God. This is the time to get rid of your mindset. This is the time to abandon your thought life that's contrary to what Yahweh said. There's also a warning that was found. Okay, here's the warning. Yah tells us in Yechezkel, means a strong hand, I will rid you of the rebels who are in revolt against me. I will bring them out from the land where they are living, but they will not enter the land of Israel. Same chapter that he told them I was going to destroy you guys in Egypt. Then you will know that I am Yahweh. Why? Because you're not going to land. So being a rebel is the one who refuses to change their ways. They're called Amara. Bitterness. You have a bitter attitude about what Yahweh has said. You don't like the structure. You don't like the order. As for you, house of Israel, here is what the supreme master, because I'm your master. I have a right. I can do whatever I choose to do with you, says Yahweh. Go on serving your idols. See that? Remember, he didn't say go worship him. He said go on serving him. Go on with that mindset. Go on thinking that you're going to do what you want to do. He says, every one of you. But afterwards, and they put it here, I swear that, because all the whole chapter talks about I swear this and I swear that. You will listen to me. You will no longer profane my holy name with your gifts and your idols. And of course, we understand that when he says you're no longer going to do that, if you're a rebel, you're not going into the land. You're not. Okay? So the question is whether or not you and I are devoted. Are you willing to give all or some great part of your time and resources? Because that's what devotion is. That's what devotion is. Devotion is to be loyal. Yahweh is looking for loyalty. The master of the universe is looking for devotion from his people. He's looking for devotion like a husband looks for a devoted wife. When your wife is not giving you any time, she's not devoted to you. A husband's not giving you any of his resources, he's not devoted to you. If a husband's not giving his wife any time, he's not devoted. He's not loyal. It's because of these people that have been our oppressors, that have taught us the things that they taught us by their gods. They haven't followed Yahweh. So as long as you're in their vein and you're staying with them, okay, and you're building the way that they want you to build, you're building your family the way that they told you, you're never going to have any shalom. And you're going to be destroyed. Devotion is where it's at. Yah tells us that my servant Caleb in the book of Bamidbar, because he had a different spirit, he had a different way about him. We understand ruach to mean a path. That's what it means. It's not just, some spirit. It's a way about him. It's the path. It's the prescribed path that he walks on. It's the way that he thinks, is where he goes, is what his routine is. He had a routine with Yah. He was devoted to Yah. You understand? He fully followed Yah. That word fully means male, to the full. You understand? So when I talk about being full, let me just make you a little glass right here. Okay? I'm going to put some green juice in it. Okay? You tell me, is this full?
No.
No. Is this full?
No.
No. It's a lot though, huh?
Yes.
Almost there.
You're almost there. Why am I taking my time filling every little hole? Why? Why tell me?
Because when you're full, you don't have any holes.
That's right. That's right, Dr. Ured. I'm complete. So if you're giving Yah a half effort in your study, in your mind, think about this man's name. I highlighted the L-E-V. You know what that means in Hebrew? Mind. Do you know what that Ka here means? It means like. His name is Caleb. It is a ket, excuse me, not a ket, a kaf, a lamed, and a bet. That's his name. Caleb. That word lave right here means mind as heart, which is your mind. The kaf right here means like. So you and I have to be like-minded. The name is dog in Hebrew, right? Caleb. But if you break his name down like I just did, Kalev, it means like-minded. The like-mindedness of Caleb is one who's fully committed to Yah. Those are the only ones that are going to be brought into the land. I heard a teaching from one of our sisters, Akoti Kandra out of Florida. And I forgot how long it was, but it was like 6 minutes, I think, maybe a few minutes. She doesn't do long teachings, but her teachings are very powerful. And I saw it, and she was going over Numbers 14. And I've read it before several times. And I didn't see, and of course, when I'm showing you, I didn't see this in until today. Okay, the lave part, I didn't see that. What I did see out of her teachings was this. When I heard it, a great fear came over me. A great fear. Because at that time, I understood that the words that are being spoken here, the words "but my servant" are being spoken by the Creator Yahweh. Those are his words. And I understood at this moment, when I heard those words, that he's telling everybody straight to their face that if you're not like Caleb and you're not 100% to me, you're not going in. I'm not accepting anybody that's less than what Caleb was. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So I'm petrified and I'm terrified, not only for my family, but for myself. I need to be 100% devoted to the Creator. And if you and I are not willing to be 100%, you can forget about it. This is not a religious talk. I'm telling you the truth. It's found in the script. It's right there in the Torah. If you don't have that mind, you're not going in. If you're not this cup, and you're not on the prescribed, you're not doing what he told you to do, you could forget it. You could forget it. Those are the only ones that he says will bring into the land. Everyone else is going to be left outside of the land. For real. That's our warning. I need you to be devoted. In conclusion, we discover, I know I'm a couple of minutes over, I'm sorry, that 20 years our father, he served in slavery. It wasn't just he was a servant, he was in slavery, everybody. Okay, his wages were changed 10 times. He absorbed losses. In his argument with in his condition, he told him in his argument when he was confronted, he's like, look, I've been there for you the whole time. I was always in constant fear, even at night. You think being a shepherd is easy? He had a lot of cold and hungry nights. He suffered mental anguish and he suffered physically. He suffered in every possible way. His family was just always in chaos. His wives were arguing. The servant girls were shaking and being different ways. And He was living in a life of uncertainty. And this is not just the beginning of his troubles. His troubles begin right when he was born, before he was even born. So this is important to understand that moving forward, you're going to continue to see what our father Yaakov is going to go through. This is just a little taste. And this is reflective of what you and I have to go through. You have to go through the slavery piece. You have to be mistreated. You have to observe, you're going to observe losses. He said, you're going to live in constant fear when I do what I do to you. Yah said, I suffer mental anguish on you and physical and everything. Just like your father. Your father experienced it too, just in a different way. But you're his children. But if you notice, your father had an encounter with me, and I introduced him to myself, and I told him what it was going to be. And I wanted to be his Elohim, but I wanted him to choose me. And that's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to choose me. I'm asking you to confide in me. I'm asking you to put your hope in me. I'm asking you to get rid of your idols, and I'm asking you to follow my ways. I'm asking you to have a firm structure in your home where you listen to what I said. I ask that you would value each other. I ask that any children that are being brought forth into this family, my family, the family that I chose, that you bring them up in the way that I've asked you and you teach them my ways. I ask that the ones that you have had and that you didn't know, I ask that you show some kindness and you show some patience. You show some mercy and some compassion as I have done to you. And no matter what it is, at the end of the day, if a person makes a choice not to listen to what I said, through whatever means it was, whether it's through Lavan giving a message to Yaakov, or was it through Leah telling us who her sons were going to be and what they're going to do, whatever it may be, understand that everyone's going to have to be accountable to me. If I'm the one who opens up the wound and closes the wound, I'm the one who can do that. Understand. Understand. And I am the Elohim of your fathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And I'm going to hold you responsible for everything that you do. I'm going to hold you responsible for every word that ever came out your mouth. If you've done wickedness against me and you decided to turn from your wickedness to righteousness, the moment you turn to righteousness, I will never mention your wickedness to you. But in the event that you depend on righteousness that you've done in the past and you turn to wickedness in any kind of way, I will not remember any of your righteousness that you've done. The message has always been the same. Turn from your wicked and evil ways and get rid of your gods and come and serve the living Elohim. This is your next week's Torah portion, Bereshit 32, 4:36 through 43, and Obadiah, meaning the servant of Yah, which we've covered in great detail, I think, last week or earlier this week. Praise be to the living Elohim. Anyone with any questions, remarks, contributions?
Just want to say what a great lesson this was. Toda Rabbah.
Toda Rabbah, Koti. It is a great lesson. We can learn like where we come from. And this is what Yah is he's letting us know. I mean, it's never easy to hear the truth. It really isn't. You know, when we look at the circumstances under our birth and as the development as a people, we can't forget that. We like to put the cart before the horse. We like to think about all the things that Yah has done for us, you know, as Israel. But we never want to look at the foundation, and we don't want to look at the root and where we come from. We have those tendencies, and we need to understand it, and that's been transmitted through time. But it's up to us to decide if you and I are going to do things differently. And Yah gives every person the opportunity to choose that which is good. So let's choose that, and let's do that. Hallelujah. Thank you so much, everyone. I do apologize again for keeping you over today. It wasn't my intent. And I'll see you a little bit later on today. Hallelujah.